launch fashion designers. We do patterns and samples. We align you with manufacturing. We do branding. We do photo shoots. And we work with designers from everything from start to finish. I do one-on-one coaching if you're interested in having a professional guide you through the process, but we'll also take it over and do all the legwork for you if that's what you're interested in. So today we're talking about 5 tips for working with your manufacturers. This is your manufacturers it's the most important relationship that you are going to make with your with anyone in the new, when looking at the relationships you're going to be building as a business owner. Your manufacturing is number one, because if they're on your side, if they want you to succeed, they'll be more willing to, meet a crunched deadline or spend the extra time to make sure you have like a perfectly quality product. And there's things that you can do on your end to help strengthen this relationship with your factory. Number one is to be organized. It's not your factory's job to organize your product, unfortunately. I wish that it was, but your factory wants to cut and they want to sew. And that's it. They, don't want to do your tech pack. They don't want to teach you what they need for elastics and interfacings and buttons. They want you to be prepared with all the resources and with all the materials and the goods and, already know where you want your label sewn. So the more organized you can be, the better. So keeping your side of the street clean so that this factory can give you a product that you're looking for is so, so important. You'll want to sample everything out. You'll want to know exactly how the fabrics react together. You'll want to have done a wash test. Like, there's all these back-end things for you to take care of so that your manufacturers can be successful. And again, I do that one-on-one coaching and that virtual coaching if that's something that you are looking to learn. It's definitely the most valuable thing, is learning what is expected of you so that a factory can be successful. And being organized is one of those things. Number 2 is to make sure that you've asked for projected completion dates and now stay on track with that. One of my favorite things is you wouldn't drop off your child at kindergarten and then pick them up when they graduate high school and expect them to have turned out all right? So you want to check in with your product along the way. Make sure, if your deadline's coming up, that you've been at the factory, that you've seen if the product's cut, is it on the line? Just staying in contact with your manufacturers, knowing what their favorite snack is. Do they like brownies? We have a factory that loves Jack Daniels. We are not above, bringing presents when we show up so that they are excited to see us. But definitely you want to stay on top of your completion date. And also, if you are going to plan a fashion show, a trade show, or any major event, add a cushion to that completion date, because things can happen. It might not necessarily be the manufacturer's fault, but the labels come late, or they run out of zippers, or the fabric, or there's so many things that can come up that you'll want to be sure that you add a cushion to the completion date. Number 3 is check in with your factory without being overly pushy. And this goes back to staying on top of them for the completion date. You don't want to have this attitude like, you're working for me, because your factory will be like, nope, I'm working for them because they're easy clients and they're nice to me. The factory, when you are in new business and you're making a smaller production, the factory isn't making that much money off of you. They're investing in your future. They see what you are doing and they believe in what you can do. So you want to make sure that you treat them more as a partner and as an equal than as, a contractor that you could just pull your stuff and go somewhere else. Because if you are spending the time to build this relationship with the factory, that's really, really valuable. And to pull it and to go to another factory will take a lot of time, and you'll have to train someone all over around your product. So it's just really, really important that you nurture this relationship with your factory and that you have a nice relationship with them, because being pushy and being overly aggressive, or it's not going to benefit you. And factories, especially right now, they're full. They usually have, everything is on the line. Like a good factory has multiple clients, and you want to maintain the best possible relationship that you can. Number 4 is hold your factory to the quote they've given you by having them write it down. So they're not necessarily trying to rip you off, but they might forget what they quoted you by the time you pick up production, because they'll quote you and you'll pick up production, and sometimes that's 6 months later if you quote it in the sample making process. So you want to make sure that you've got that quote written down, and initialed by them or even written in their own handwriting is useful, because once they've given you that quote, they have to honor that quote. So you want to make sure that there's some sort of written documentation. Factories don't normally sign contracts. That's another thing that's difficult to get a factory to pin down. But if you have it in their writing, they will honor that price. And if they plan to raise that price, then they have to talk to you about that as to why and what's happening. But if you can get them to do a sample and then the production later, you can avoid them having any surprises in the production that would make them or want them to raise that price that they've given you. Number 5 is the best way to get a perfect production is to have a perfect tech pack and a perfect sample. And now that's a sample in every colorway. So you'll do a top of production, make sure all the colorways are correct. The zippers, now it's an additional cost to have these perfect samples made. I understand that. But when you're getting to know a factory, when they're getting to know you, it's the best way to ensure a perfect production is to have that sample made with all of the materials. Take the time to do a top of production. And now a top of production, I'll back up because maybe you guys don't understand what that is. That would be, they've already cut all of your garments. So say you're making 100, they've already cut all of them. So you don't have the opportunity to change any pattern work at that point. They cut everything, and before they sew everything, they'll just make one so that you can firm off that that is actually the one that you want and the colorway is correct and they use the right zipper, all of that. So having a perfect tech pack and having them do that top of production for every colorway is the best way to get your production perfect. So I'm going to review those for those of you who came on late, but you can always check this out on the Makers Row Facebook. It will also be on the Instagram stories and on their feed. But number 1 is to be organized. Number 2 is to ask for completion dates and stay connected with them to make sure that those are happening. Number 3 is check in with the factory without being pushy, maintaining a really great relationship with your manufacturer, because it's the most important relationship you're going to have. Number 4 is make sure to have that quote written down in their handwriting or have them sign off and hold them to that quote. And number 5 is have a perfect tech pack and top of production before you move into production. All right, so and today on Makers Row, I am hosting How to Cost Your Garment. You will get my costing template so you can go through it on your own while I'm teaching you how to use it. And I'll show you how you should cost your garment for retail and wholesale. And if you're interested in signing up for that, there is a link in my VMore Consulting Instagram page in the bio. Click on that. It'll sign you up for today's class. It is at 4 o'clock, and we only have a few open spots. So if you're interested in that, make sure to check it out. But in the meantime, I'm going to take questions on production. Anything that you guys have. Do you guys have any questions? I'm going to see if we had any up until this point. No questions yet, but I know that there's a lot of new designers on, so I'm just going to give you a second to ask me a question about production. It can be anything. Catherine, do you have any questions about production? You guys aren't going to ask. I'm going to make my team.
What kind of tech packs are required for production?
What kind of tech packs are required for production? Okay, so at Vimora, we have different tech packs. There's a simple tech pack that would be someone, if you're working with a factory, that you have the ability to go see them on a daily basis if they have questions. You definitely want to have the majority of the details in there. On Demand has its own set of tech packs, and Offshore has its own set of tech packs. So you'll want to talk to the factory if you have a factory in mind about what specific type of tech packs they'll be looking for. Now, if you don't have a manufacturer in mind before you make your tech pack, I would recommend just doing the simple tech pack, and then that is the start of any other tech pack. And then you can just add in the additional information required around your factory. Can you walk through the process of patterns to samples to get complete tech packs and what cost to expect? So to get patterns, you'll need a sketch and you'll need your fabric sourced. Patterns can vary from $200 to $1,500, depending on how detailed it is. Is it a lined garment? Is it a jacket? So forth. And then you'll have the pattern created off of the spec sheet. They'll do a prototype, which can be made out of a muslin or a less expensive fabric than your actual sample fabric. You'll do a fitting. You hire a fit model. Fit models have a fee involved. Here in New York, I think they're $150 an hour. Could be wrong. Yes, $150 an hour. And then from there, you'll do pattern alterations and you'll do your final sample. And the final sample, again, can be anywhere from $200 for something simple to $1,500, even $2,000 if you're doing evening wear or bridal. And then once you have that final sample, you can create that. You use the spec sheet that you originally had and you add information to make it the tech pack. At Vimora, we do tech packs. They're $375 for a simple and $750 for offshore or on demand. Great. Strange that factories don't do contracts since most businesses do them. What's the historical reasoning for that? Okay, so the number one contract that I see designers asking the factories to sign is an NDA. And they don't have the ability to do a non-disclosure because they have people in and out of their factory all day. They have the FedEx guy, the UPS guy, they have other clients, there's a lot of people that are in and out of their factory. So for them to sign an NDA means that they would have to do a closed factory where no one else was allowed to come into their space while they were cutting or sewing or working or packaging or ironing or anything on your product. And that's just not something that they can do unless you're giving them a large enough contract that they're able to just close up shop for everyone else involved. So legally, they just aren't able to uphold an NDA. So it depends on the contracts that are involved. But a lot of times, because they have so many other clients that they're working with, going in with large contracts can be difficult for them to get them to sign because they'll take it as kind of like a red flag of like this client's going to be difficult to work with. So it's hard. It's not to say that I haven't seen factories sign contracts. It's just if you have everything in writing revolved around the quotes and revolved around the finishing and the completion date, that in writing will work as a contract. But as far as an NDA, I've never seen anyone sign that, and that's because they can't withhold that. Now, I also have never seen any of my factories steal an idea from a designer. I've never seen that happen. They're in the business to cut and to sew, not to take ideas. So you can trust them. Talk to other people that work with them. Talk to other, see what you can find out about them. See if you can get a referral. But yes, you're welcome for clarifying. It's a tough question, and I'm not a lawyer. I always have to say that when I give legal advice. So let's see, we've got a bunch of other questions. Should I include my tech pack the seam number, or can I just double? I don't know what that means. Okay. Can you recommend some factories in the United States? Makers Row, if you guys are not familiar, has a ton of resources on their website of domestic manufacturers, so definitely look into Makers Row. As a designer, how do I know the factory I pick is not overcharging me? So you should get at least 3 quotes from different factories, and surprisingly enough, they'll come in within $1 of each other. If someone's way below or way high, it's not necessarily that this high product is going to give you a better production, or that the low product is the way to go. So just quote out at multiple factories, so you're not just getting one. Are weekly checkups too pushy? Not if your product is on the line. If your product is on the line and they're sewing it, you should be, sometimes your production will only take a matter of days. So you'll want to talk to your factory to know when your product is going to be on the line, to know when to stop by. But yeah, it's not too pushy, especially if you like Ring Brownies or Jack Daniels. Okay, any templates you use for contracts with manufacturers? I do not have any templates for contracts with manufacturers. That would be something that a lawyer could help you with. We have templates for tech packs. We have templates for other things, but not for the legal aspects. Okay. Any other questions? Let's see, I'm just scrolling. What would the startup cost for a new beginner if you didn't want to start off small? Yeah, I would say I do a one-on-one 20-minute consultation that you can hire me through. It's free. I put where you can contact me through Makers Row. That's more of like a personalized question around like, what is your budget? When you say you don't want to start off small, is that 100 units? Is that not small? Or is it 2,000 units? Is that not small? So it's a, I've seen designers spend anywhere from, $10,000 to $150,000, $250,000. So you really, what you want to do is sit down with someone like me that can help you decipher how are you going to allocate your funds, how much do you have to spend, and how are you going to get the biggest return. And I do that with clients. So we've been sewing our own production and selling, but need to fill later orders. Should we have to wait for 9 weeks lead time from the point of A to Z, looking for a manufacturer who won't have to start from scratch? Thank you. Yes, I don't have a direct answer for you. Larger orders, not later. Oh, you're looking for larger orders. Yes. So you can contact me. We have factories that can help with larger orders. And then saying a factory doesn't have to start from scratch, that means that all of your fabric is sourced, your tech packs are done, your samples are done, your patterns are digital, they're digitized, you got your markers done. Then they don't have to start from scratch, but a manufacturer will need all of that in order to get you a production. If you have all of that, they can get it done relatively quickly, especially domestically. So yeah, you can reach out to me and we can talk one-on-one in the 20-minute strategy session. I've got time for one more question. Anybody? No? I've got 2 streaming events. Did anyone have a question? Oh, how much is the cost for a basic dress from a manufacturer? Again, is it lined? Is it unlined? How many are you making? All of that varies the cost of the garment. So, are you making 25 or are you making 250? That's going to change the price. Is the garment lined? Is it not lined? Does it have darts? Is it stretch? Is it woven? So all of these things come into play for all of this. So it's really hard for me to give you a number. Is it cheaper to have a manufacturer do the pattern making, sourcing, etc., full service, or to outsource patterns and tech packs and bring them to the manufacturer? I don't know any manufacturers. That's not true. I know one manufacturer domestically that does patterns and samples, maybe two, but most factories don't do patterns and samples. You have to bring them the pattern, the sample, and source the goods. Companies like mine, I do help, and we do the sourcing and the patterns and the samples. And when it comes to manufacturing, we'll quote out at a bunch of different factories for you. We'll bring you to them. You'll meet them. We'll help you make the decision. So as far as full service, you'd be looking at more of a company like Vmora than with a manufacturer. But is it cheaper? It's obviously it's going to be cheaper to piecemeal things, but it's going to be more work. So piecemealing things, you know, is cheaper than having a full service, but it's also more of a headache. You get what you pay for, right? Can you recommend places to source fabric? So again, on Makers Row, they've got so many resources for fabric and manufacturers and vendors. If you are not a member, you should be. So yes. All right, you guys, thank you so much for joining in today. And again, if you're interested in the costing, you can go to Vmora Consulting, the Instagram. There's a link in the bio where you can sign up. We've got, before we started, I think we had 3 spots open. Last week it sold out. So if you want to know how to cost your garment properly, it's really, really great. You'll get the template. I'll teach you how to use it. And yeah, I will see you next Monday, same time. And are you partners with vendors in Georgia? So again, Makers Row does have places in Georgia. But I'm Anna Livermore from Vmora, and you can contact me through Makers Row or Embark, and we've got that 4 o'clock costing. So be sure, if you're interested in that, to reach out. And I will see you next Monday. I have 5 more tips for working with your manufacturers. So we're going to do, this is a 2-part, so we're going to do 5 more tips next week, 3 o'clock. I will see you here. All right, thank you.